Now we're going to transition into another topic. What happens if a function has no return statement? Okay, and I'm actually going to define one of these functions. You see it right here. Do nothing. Actually, before I do that, let me go through the slide. Functions that have no return value return something called none in Python, and none is basically represents nothing in Python. Every single programming language out there today, I think at least most of them, have some type of representation of nothing, and so none is Python's representation of that. So let's go and define a function that does nothing. Exciting stuff. Okay, and we're basically going to define a variable that, I don't know, it doesn't really matter what we do. We just need to show that it returns nothing. Okay, so this is a function that returns nothing. So let's run this stuff. Again, let me go over how we run things in Python. So basically, this is a specific directory, document, CS lectures, video code. And one command I didn't talk about is a CD. CD literally means change directory. And there's a couple. So in the last video, what I did is I went step by step, but you can also take a little bit of a shortcut and do CS. So here, and I can do backslash, and then go to video for code. So sorry, a lot of videos. Not really, but video for code. There we go. Okay, so now if I list the directory, I get video4.py. Also, I did this command right here. This gives me the list of what's going on in the file. If you're running on Mac or Linux systems, the command is ls, but that's not going to work on Windows. Windows has a specific command. Okay, so also if you're working on Git Bash, the command is ls, by the way, just to make sure. So now once we're here, we can run our video4 file, and now let's see what happens when we do nothing. We should do nothing. Oh, beautiful. We got nothing. Okay, great. So what do nothing actually does is it returns none. Okay, so let's take a moment to look at the environment diagram for exactly what happens when we do nothing. It's so interesting. I'm talking about doing nothing, but anyway. So we're gonna call do nothing. We're gonna get a frame. We're gonna define a variable in there, but at the end of the day, we're returning none. And what is result bound to at the end? It's actually bound to the value result, none. And none is a little tricky because so for example, if I did result is equal to do nothing, and I try to evaluate result, nothing's going to display. It's not going to print out none. It's just going to do nothing. Okay, so that's a little bit tricky part of working with none. And now we'll go into something a little tricky as well. So there's a special function in Python that we haven't really talked about, the print function. What the print function does is it basically displays output onto the interactive interpreter. Here's an example. I want to say hello to a name. I can print hello plus the name, and if I say hello to myself, I get hello Napoon. So this, and one thing you might have noticed is it strips away the quotations. So what the print function actually does is it basically takes whatever you input and makes it into human readable format and displays it. The actual details of how this does that is a little more complicated and something I'll go over later in the course. But for now, that's all you need to know. The print function also returns none. So let's take a detour real quick and look at the print function a little. So the first thing you do in many programming classes is you do this print hello world thing. This is not a normal programming class though. You guys are better than that. We're not going to do that, but I will just do it for traditional sake. So another thing we can do, we can print numbers. One thing also is, let's say I define a function that prints stuff, okay? Sorry. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to print 4, let's say, and I want to print 5. It's important to understand exactly how the print function displays things. So if I print stuff now, what's going to happen is I get 4 followed by a line break 5. Okay, so this line break idea is pretty important. Every time we call print, it implicitly creates a new line as well. So And also, another way to do print is if you want to print things in spaces. Also, by the way, print takes a default number of arguments. You can pass in as many as you want. I could have passed in just 2 arguments, and it would have just worked fine. So basically, this prints things in spaces. Okay, and also one cool thing is print can actually display none. Okay, so remember we had results was none. We weren't getting it, but if I print result, I'll get none. So that's how you can actually show none. So some cool stuff you can do with print. It's a very interesting function. And the reason it's a very interesting function is that it's our first ever example of a non-pure function. Okay, so far most of the functions we've dealt with are pure functions because they just return values. So here an example of that is the absolute value function. The square function we've worked with so many times. That's a pure function. Most of the other functions we've worked with have all been pure functions as well. This print function is our first example of a non-pure function. It has side effects. And in this case, so this is a good diagram for understanding how exactly this works. It doesn't return anything, but it displays something as a side effect. By the way, a side effect doesn't have to be actually in a value. It can be something else as well. I'll talk more about this note later on when we see more non-pure functions. But for now, all you need to know is that a non-pure function has a side effect and it doesn't return anything, while a pure function just straight up returns something. And this is very important to understand. So now we're going to go into nested print expressions. So we're going to apply the expression tree idea with a little bit of a catch. So I'm just going to go through this because it's kind of hard to figure this out if you guys don't exactly know how print works. So basically, we're going to do our expression tree as we've done 100 times. So we evaluate the operator, evaluate the operands, and then keep on going until we get to the bottom of the tree. And then now, it's a little bit tricky because print has a side effect. So when we print 4, we're physically going to display 4. When we print 5, we're going to display 5. So this is going to go left to right. So here, we're going to have a side effect where it displays 4 and displays 5 here. But remember what I said. The print function returns none. Okay, that's very important because the evaluation of all of this, all of these print calls is going to be none. Okay, so from here we're going to call print on none and none separated by commas, so it's going to display none none. Remember that example with prints being called on commas on separate arguments. Sorry, this is exactly what happens. So and then this entire thing evaluates to none because remember print returns none. So this is very useful to know, and the actual output of this is going to look like this. So sometimes it's actually interesting because on CS61A exams they always have these tricky examples. A lot of them have to do with print and print returning none. So if you ever do want to take that course, make sure you understand this. But even if you don't want to take the course, this is a good thing to know.